players left. Pulls up, looking for the lead, and got it. Jaylen Williams, 2 seconds, 111-109. Now SGA, probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Kenrich Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Topic Thunder podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Huntsinger at Thunder Chats. We're part of the B-League Network, and this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. And before we just address anything, I just gotta say the Oklahoma City Thunder played a basketball game tonight against the Dallas Mavericks for the NBA Cup, and they were victorious. We're going to Vegas, baby. The vibes are immaculate. The vibes are superb right now. They're even better because we're joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the underscone, Connor. What up, Con?
Feeling good, man. We're going cupping. Hitting up Vegas. It's going to be a good time, man. Excited. Play the winner of the Rockets and Warriors, and then the winner of the Bucks to be the Magic today. And then either the Knicks or the Hawks. It'll probably be Bucks versus Knicks. My prediction before 2-0, by the way, on NBA Cup game prediction so far. Feeling
there
good.
You go.
But I think it'll be us versus the Knicks. That's what I predicted beforehand. But yeah, man, what a game. We're feeling good. Vibes are extremely high. The Thunder have never lost an NBA Cup quarterfinal game while I'm wearing the Mark Daigneault shirt. So clearly there's a little bit of magic in this one. But yeah, man, if you want to talk about most impressive, just best wins of the season, this one's right up there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's go to the chat. So some people in the chat are piping in. We got Colin saying, "Can we please end the Luka versus Shai talks?" They were on different stratospheres tonight, and I mean, I think that's the easiest place to start because, if you look at the story of the game, it is the absolute dominance of one player and the absolute erasure of another player. And the dominance was Shai, luckily for the Thunder tonight. And I mean, it's just me and you. I mean, we're just talking about one game. We don't got to do a single large item. We could just kind of wax poetic on this. But, yeah. I mean, looking at Shai's stats tonight, man, sometimes the stats don't tell the whole story, but the stats tell a pretty good portion of the story tonight.
They do.
39 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. Shot 65% from the field, 5 of 9 from three-point line. So, 46-ish, 47-ish. From 3, 100% from the free throw line, only 2 turnovers, and was just absolutely absurd all over the place. Whenever, it felt like a lead was starting to go away when he was on the bench, he would check in and immediately stabilize it. I remember in the third quarter, the Mavs cut it to 10. Shai checked in. No, it was fourth quarter, sorry. Shai checked in, immediately hit a pull-up 3 out of the timeout to just right the ship. And it seemed like every time we needed an answer from Shai in the last 3 quarters of the game, he gave it to us. And the first quarter of the game was just absolute domination. But yeah, man, Shai put on a show. He made a statement tonight, national television, against, a marquee opponent in the Dallas Mavericks on the NBA Cup. You can't say enough about him.
Yeah, I mean, this was a dominant effort. It's what he did in the playoffs last year against Dallas.
Yeah.
He went completely ballistic, berserk in that series, and it feels like somehow people forgot and tried to change the narrative that he didn't go insane. He was the best player by far in the Mavericks in the playoffs last year, and he was by far the best player on the court tonight, not even a discussion whatsoever. Just, again, every time a lead started to go away a little bit, Shai checks in, immediately the lead's back up to 15. It was 20 at one point. Just so steadying, nonstop mid-range jumper after mid-range jumper. 5 threes tonight, by the way, as well. Completely knocking those down. This is why when people are like, why is Shai shooting 10 threes a game? It's for games like this, so he can have those reps, he can be respected, but more so have the comfort to take them. Because last year against the Mavericks, we struggled to shoot threes. So Shai can shoot them and open up the court even more, then that's going to be huge for us. And we saw that tonight with Shai knocking down those 5 shots, attacking downhill, finishing through traffic. It's all the stuff that Shai does. And I really think playing that Mavericks series last year was so vital to this team because I believe the Mavericks are the second best team in the Western Conference. It's us. It's going to be us versus them in the Western Conference Finals if the seeding works out that way. At some point, I believe we will probably run into Dallas. And so to have gotten the reps last year and then in a game like this where it's a playoff type atmosphere, to be able to have that experience to rely on is huge. And it felt like Shai played so well. And you could see those like little minute details that he brought from that. I felt like the playmaking, the overall reading of the Mavericks defense was way better from the whole team, but Shai really kind of honed in on that in this game, and it was better than what we saw from him in that series, because as great as he was, there were a couple moments where he missed some passes, and in this game, it felt like he was on point with that. His defense was really good. The whole team reading those actions, Mark having guys in the positions to succeed against this Mavericks team, the experience was so important, and it feels like they also learned a little bit from that first Mavericks game that they lost earlier in this season. And I mean, you can see what like iHeart does for this team in this matchup, because he is huge against Dallas. But yeah, man, it was just an overall hyper impressive game from Shai. If he goes on to win MVP this season, because right now Jokic is probably at the forefront for most people because he's putting up some unbelievable stats at the moment. But if the Thunder end up being by far the best team in the Western Conference and Shai's putting up these numbers, he's going to have a big argument. And this is one of those games you need MVP moments in the NBA. And I do think the NBA Cup, if Shai can continue on this run and the Thunder could win it, that could be something that gets him a lot more recognition, because, you kind of saw that last year with Tyrese Halliburton, where Tyrese had that crazy run. And even though his second half of the season was pretty rough, he still ended up making an all-NBA team because his stock rose a bunch because of that NBA Cup run. So it just little small things that help out with your MVP narrative. But yeah, I mean, tonight it was 39 points on 68% shooting?
65.2.
Just ridiculous stuff, man. And this Mavericks team, they were the 8th best defense in the league coming into this game. So they were clamping people up, and losing PJ hurts them a little bit. But even still, like, nothing they were going to do tonight was going to stop Shai from just completely torching them. Only 2 turnovers in the entire night. Only 4 free throws, by the way. Thunder had no free throws in the entire second half. It was 10-0 in the second half as well. So if you know someone who, shout to T for dropping that exact stat in the chat. If you know someone who thinks Shai's a free throw merchant, I don't even know how you can make that argument at this point when he's doing stuff like that. Shai doesn't need the free throws. He gets them because he drives a lot and he takes a lot of contact, but he definitely doesn't need them. Scoring 39 on the top 10 defense on crazy efficiency. This is the stuff that you need to see in the playoffs, and he did it last year. He did it again here.
Yeah, and, obviously the free throw narrative is one that kind of needs to go away. But we got another narrative to talk about. We got a super chat here from Euro Thunder, says, it's not talked about enough, but SGA holds grudges like MJ did. The playoffs versus the Mavs last year put him on a mission against his Mavs as the rivals. And I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like, I think that obviously, the playoffs was like heightened emotions, like heightened moments. And, those are the kind of matchups that stick with you like throughout your career. But like, even looking at the first matchup that we had this year, obviously we were not only down Chet, we was down Isaiah Hartenstein, we was down Kenrich Williams, we was down Alex Caruso. And we're going to talk about those guys and, how much they help later on in this podcast. But the Mavs and the Thunder very clearly do not like each other. Like, they bring their A game whenever they're playing up against each other. Like, it means more to them. Even when Luka was out in the first matchup, like Kyrie, PJ Washington specifically, like if anybody else on the Mavericks, like it means more to them to play the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's PJ Washington. But yeah, like it means more to them. But like the biggest amount of evidence that like we know about this rivalry and how these teams feel about each other is just in a little petty music choice, which Tim McMahon said before the game on ESPN, that after the Mavericks beat OKC earlier the year in OKC without Luka, they were blaring Nipsey Hussle. Remind me of the song, Cone? I couldn't remember. Last time I checked, I think is what it was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they mentioned it in the tweet.
I think it was last time I checked, because I watched the video like right before we potted as well. But he said they was playing it loud enough that the Oklahoma City Thunder could hear it in their locker room. And as you mentioned, before we used about the podcast, guess what song they were playing over the loudspeakers in the arena right after the Thunder won the game last time I checked, by Nipsey Hussle. So there's some pettiness going on there. It's clear that these fan bases don't like each other. It's starting to be clear that these teams don't like each other. specifically. Luka doesn't like it when Lou Dort's guarding him. And Shai elevates his game whenever he plays the Mavericks. And, that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm sure that he sees this narrative about Luka versus Shai. And Shai's never going to be a guy that's going to, put himself above the team in terms of, in terms of how he's approaching his game, but he sees those conversations. And, much like Ant did last year, saying that he thought he was better than Shai and Luka, Shai's never going to come out and say that because he's not that type of player, but he definitely thinks it and he believes it. And tonight that was the case.
Yeah, Shai had more points than Kyrie and Luka combined tonight. 39 for Shai, 33 for the two of them. He was asked about that after the game. I think, let me find the tweet. Shout out to Brandon Raybar. He was asked about that stat, and Shai said it was a hell of a job by Lou and Queso. It's more impressive for them to hold Luke and Kyrie to that low of a point total than it is for me to score 39. And Shai was also asked why OKC was able to slow down Luka tonight, and he said, Lou Dort, which is true, 100%. And then last one I wanted to say, that kind of tied into what we were talking about there with the grudges and things. Joel Lorenzi, shout out to also another friend of the podcast, asked Shai if he thought about the second round series at all while playing tonight. And Shai said, personally, all day. They came out the West last year, which means they were the best in the West. Obviously, we know how good the West is, and I respect that. I used the opportunity to see if I got better to measure myself. That's when you see who you really are when you play the top of the top. Shout out to Colin also dropping that in the chat so you can see the quote here on the screen. I mean, that's kind of always been the mindset that Shai has presented is I want to see myself against the best of the best. We want to, we want to win. We want these challenges. We want all the smoke is the way that Shai and the Thunder have always operated is they're not going to shy away from a challenge. They're going to go at people. And that's why they're the youngest one seed ever last year. That's why they continue to sit on top of the Western Conference, despite being one of the youngest teams in the entire NBA. They're not your typical team. Even though they don't have as much experience, they don't have as much veteran leadership as some of these teams do. They just want it. If you want to talk about the hungriest teams in the NBA, this team is hungry. They want to play everybody. They want to beat everybody. They want to show that they're the best. And I mean, tonight, they put on a showcase of exactly why people have been saying all offseason and throughout the beginning of the year here that the Thunder are the best team in the Western Conference. And I mean, you could see why. I want to bring up next the defense for this team. Obviously, it's been a big topic of conversation that we've gone through on the podcast here. And I'm sure if you follow any of us on Twitter, any Thunder social media pages, it should be more national media. Hopefully now they'll recognize it with this game tonight. But the Thunder have one of the best defenses in NBA history so far to start this season. They have been by far and away the best team according to defensive rating. And we've talked about the stat. Thunder have more steals than turnovers this season. Tonight, 14 steals, 13 turnovers. That point differential continues to climb. Dallas had 18 turnovers, and it really felt like there wasn't more than a few possessions in a row where Dallas had the ball in their, they weren't bobbling it, they weren't throwing it away. It's just a nightmare to play this Thunder defense. 18 total turnovers for the Mavericks to only 13 from the Thunder. And that's a big difference because OKC, 7 free throws to 19 from Dallas. The Mavericks shot better from the field and from the three-point line, and the Thunder still won because they got up 101 shots compared to 80 from the Mavericks. And that was crazy because of taking shots off of turnovers and also the offensive rebounding tonight. And it wasn't just like iHeart out there. Everybody was fighting like hell on the offensive boards. And that was a big problem in last year's series. 17 offensive rebounds to just 7 for Dallas. And I mean, Kaysen, I know the shot comes and goes. He hit 3 threes tonight, which was great. But the defense is amazing. And just his relentlessness on the offensive rebounds is absurd. Kaysen Wallace had 4 offensive boards tonight. As a guard, I would say a small guard, but one of the smallest players on the court every time that he's out there. He just gives so much effort. 3 from Lou Dort, 5 from Isaiah Hartenstein, 2 from Dub, 1 from Jaylen Williams, 1 from Caruso, which probably was that offensive rebound that he hit out to Isaiah Joe for the buzzer-beating 3 at the end of the third quarter. 1 from AJ Mitchell. This team just fights, man. They just fight, and that's a lot of where the defense comes from. It's just they play harder than basically anybody else. Every 50-50 ball felt like it was going the Thunder's way. Like they were diving after loose balls. That play where Caruso taps it out to Isaiah Joe for the three completely encapsulates the Thunder experience, in my opinion. They are smaller than a lot of teams. They play extremely physical because they, again, they're small and they're going to go after every loose ball. They're going to dive. They're going to fight for every last possession. And that's kind of the story of this game. They didn't shoot better. They didn't get as many free throws, but they clamped up. They won all the 50-50 balls, and they sit on top of the Western Conference. What is it now? 19-5 on the season?
Daggone it. That doesn't have 19-5.
19-5. Might get 20 wins before 6 losses.
That'd be nice. That'd be very nice. I like that. Yeah, man. I mean, how many steals? I was trying to find it. So yeah.
Also, Lou Dort, best Luka defender in the NBA, not even close. Nobody does this to Luka the way that Lou does. And I know there are a lot of Mavericks fans that are talking about him playing football and this and that, but like tonight, I really didn't even feel like there were that many moments where like Luka didn't get a 50-50 call. It just really felt like he got completely shut off. And yeah, shout out to Euro Thunder. I need to mention that too. Kaysen, that step back three that Luka had that he blocked was so sick at the beginning of the game. And Luka gets the ball back and immediately is like, okay, I'm going to ISO and I'm going to score on you this time. And then throws up a layup that only hits backboard, doesn't even come close to the rim. It's just a special defensive player, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about with like the defense. I mean, obviously Lou and Kaysen together were like the main culprits behind Luka's bad game. But I mean, everybody like pitched in. Like on switches, Shai was hounding him, Kenny was hounding him, Wiggins, even Zay a couple possessions was getting in there. But yeah, Luka finished the game with 16 points, which is as many as Shai had in the first quarter. And Shai did so in better efficiency as well. I'd be remiss in not saying he had 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Those are good stats. But he shot 33% from the field. He shot 25% from the three-point line. And he shot more free throws than Shai did. And I can't say enough how good of a job that the Thunder did. The Mavericks ended up having 18 turnovers, and 6 of them were from Luka alone. And that's gang defense, man. Like Lou Dort was absolutely hounding him. There was one possession where Dort didn't get a block or anything like that, but just how he was so locked in with him step for step all the way to the rim to get like a super clean contest to where like Luka didn't have a prayer of making it. Kaysen Wallace obviously stepping up, just being an absolute pest anytime that he got the assignment. There were sometimes when they were going up and down the court, like whenever they would get the ball off of a missed shot, like Kaysen would just lock in on Luka. Lou Dort would be all the way up into the court. I'm like, I think the different looks, like, they're both great defenders, but they both defend in a different way. So I think throwing those different looks at Luka kind of threw him off a little bit, honestly, because Lou Dort's a guy that's going to get up in you. He's going to be physical. Kaysen's a guy that's going to kind of give you your space a little bit, but he's got super long arms and they're super quick. I was saying, like, going into the draft process, like, Kaysen Wallace has some of the best ball skills as a guard in terms of, like, defender, like, smacking at balls that I've seen in a prospect. And he continues to show that. So I think that Mark is really starting to get creative in how he uses these guys, not just giving Lou, like, hey, you're guarding Luka, you're guarding Ant, you're guarding Curry, you're guarding, the best ball player or the best ball handler on that team, and that's it. I think that diversifying that and giving them different looks makes them think a little bit more about it, and it worked tonight.
Yeah, and that's something that's special about this Thunder defense is the variety of looks they can throw at you. And when Chet comes back, that's going to get even scarier because they can go small. They could go one with the bigs. They could go double big if they wanted to. You have a physical, big body defender in Lou Dort. You have this scrappy, like poke at you veteran defender in an Alex Caruso. You have this high energy, very athletic defender that is kind of like a mini Caruso in ways in Kaysen Wallace. You've got lengthy guys with Shai and Dub and Kenrich Williams, who's that hustle player, is going to take charges, and same thing with Isaiah Joe, and Dort's going to take charges too. It genuinely is one of the best defenses I've ever seen. Me personally, I don't know if I've ever watched a better defense in my entire life. I'm 24, so when like the Spurs, that 04 defense that is considered one of the best ever, when that was going on, I was 4 years old, so I don't remember that. I don't remember like the Pistons defense back then. Like I'm not one of the guys that remembers those peak defenses. So for me personally, this must be like what it felt like to people watching those types of units out there, where it just. I mentioned this to someone while I was watching the game, because I was watching it over on playback with a few people, and I was like, what does it feel like to be someone watching your team try to score against this Thunder defense? Like, what does it feel like? And the person was like, it's like obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's just annoying because you throw the ball, like you lose the ball every 5 seconds, and there's no driving lanes, and guys are getting shut off, and your players are getting frustrated. Like, there's just nothing you can do because there's size, there's length, there's quickness, there's athleticism. They're young, they have a ton of energy, and there's just bodies after bodies after bodies you can throw at opposing teams if you are the Thunder. So it's like one guy gets in foul trouble. It literally is like, we talked about this before the season, where people are like, imagine that you're being guarded by Lou Dort, you get the switch, and all of a sudden you're being guarded by Case and Wallace, and you get a third switch, and now it's Alex Caruso, and you get by him, and Chet Holmgren is down there at the rim, and Shai's lurking in the passing lane. Like, what can you possibly do against that defense consistently?
Yeah, no, it's got to be a nightmare, man. I'm just glad we're on the other side of it. We don't got to
very happy that that's us.
Because, like, we was talking about before about, like, Boston and their defense, and, like, Tatum and Brown are good defenders in their own right, but, like, that thing is anchored by the guard defense of Derek White and Drew Holiday, and those guys are phenomenal defenders. Like, they're right up there in, like, the top 3, I would say, like, in terms of, like, perimeter defenders. But the thing with the Thunder is they have guard defenders in Lou Dort and Case Wallace, but they also have wing defenders in Jaylen Williams and Alex Caruso. And, even guys that are jumping the passing lane, like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like Aaron Wiggins. And, they have the rim protection with Chet Holmgren, whenever he gets healthy, and Isaiah Hartenstein. So, like, they just beat you in so many ways, man. It's so nice. I do want to say, so DCFNF said, I love how Mavs fans are saying that we lost because they lost because they had no PJ, but, like, bro, we had no Chet. And not only did we not have Chet, we don't have Jaylen Williams, Jay Will. We don't have Ousmane Dieng, which, hey, you can snicker if you want to. He was in the rotation in this season, so, like, that's another rotation player we were missing. And I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast. The last time that we played the Mavericks, they were missing Luka, but we were missing literally a third of our rotation. And we had 3 of those guys back tonight in Isaiah Hartenstein, Kendrick Williams, and Alex Caruso. And, man, the impact that those guys made in their minutes on the floor, like, cannot be overstated. Like, Isaiah Hartenstein, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, have 5 offensive rebounds of his 13. And they just felt they were all timely, man. Like, every single one of them was just like a back-breaking play for the Mavs because he would get it and he would get an M1. He would get it and he'd have a thunderous dunk that gets the crowd into it and prompts the Mavericks to call a timeout. Like, and there was one play defensively where he got it started with a block and transition. The Mavs got the rebound. They kind of reset. And then they tried to drive in on him again, and he walled him up again and forced a shot clock violation, like, basically single-handedly. Like, his impact, like, cannot go overstated. And Kendrick Williams, man, like, hand up. I kind of slept on Kendrick Williams' impact going into the season. I kind of thought that, he was low key, like, going out to pasture, like, in terms of, like, where this team was headed. And I'm eating crow, man. 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, hit 3 or 4 from the 3-point line, and, like, really made our small ball lineups that much more effective by just having somebody out there with just a little bit more size whenever Hart was out of the game. So, Kendrick Williams was phenomenal. And then, of course, Caruso, we talked about flying around everywhere.
Hey, Dylan, I got a question. I'm struggling to remember how many picks the Thunder have to give to get Alex Caruso. It was at least 1 first-round pick, right? Maybe even a couple of second-round picks. At least it had to, at the very least, be like a lightly protected first of some kind, right?
Yeah, at least like a fake second or something like that, right?
Yeah, like, or maybe even a couple of fake seconds. I don't know. And it's just I can't seem to remember if anyone in the chat wants to remind me, but I'm kind of blanking on that.
I was just saying he was nuts. I mean, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and just making life miserable, man. Flying all over the court. Like, I see why he gets hurt all the time because he just puts his body on the line, and I love him for it. But it's also like, let's try to keep that bottle up until the playoffs, AC.
Yeah, Caruso honestly reminds me a little bit of me sometimes on the court. I think he watched my game film, but like I'll go play pickup hoops and I'll come back and I'll have like 14 ailments. Like I kind of tweak my ankle a little bit and like my back's kind of hurting me and my shoulder's bugging me and this, that, and the other thing because I just like run around everywhere and muck things up and go into a lot of contact. Like I watched Caruso and I'm like, that probably looks like how I look when I'm just running around and just doing things at times. Now, Caruso is unfortunately, for me, way better at basketball, although fortunately for me, with him being on the Thunder, but I've gotten beat in the hair department, so I've got one win there at the very least. But Caruso's, he's just one of those players where, like, I don't know how there were some Thunder fans that were like, I know people like was like, oh, you know, Giddey had been here from the beginning and stuff like that, but Caruso was just always this fantastic fit for what the Thunder were building. There was not a better role player they could have gone out there and acquired in that deal than Alex Caruso. He's just been a winning player for so long. Any guy who can guard like that is just going to put his body on the line. The 3-point shot is coming back around. I think he was like 3 for... did he have 2 of 6? Yeah, 33%, which, you know, you wanted to keep coming up, but I mean, hitting a couple threes, like that's fine. He only plays 22 minutes. If you can hit a couple threes, that's fine. And it's funny, it felt like the Thunder didn't shoot that great tonight from the outside. They didn't put up 50 threes, but they shot 40% from the outside. So even though it didn't feel the best, like it ended up working out. And like, I mean, the shots come back around a little bit. The defense is always going to be game breaking. Caruso's a special player. He just is an X factor. He was a big reason why the Lakers won their championship. And it's cool now to see him, even if he wasn't OKC, I'll just be hyped to see him in a new winning environment out of Chicago after that whole thing fell apart. So it's just really cool to see him getting the chance to compete at a high level. And yeah, like you said with Jaylen Williams, Kenny deserves a lot of credit because I don't think people have given him enough love for what he's done this season. Been such a game changer. That stretch where he hit a couple of threes and got like a stop was it the second quarter? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was
because the Mavericks were like hanging around a little bit and they were only down 3 going into halftime, but the Thunder started to build some serious momentum with Kenny making those plays. And just every time he's come on the court, man, it's just been such great energy from him, whether he's taking charges, he's fighting on the rebound or on the boards, you know, fighting for an offensive rebound. He's hitting a couple of threes here and there, playing great defense. Kenrich is just one of those guys, man. He's just such a guy. The Thunder have so many dogs on this team. There's a reason they bark in post-game interviews. But yeah, man, shout out to Kenrich Williams. This whole team, man, it's a lot of fun. Shout out Isaiah Joe, hit 3 threes in this game, including that huge shot going up against, you know, in the end of the third quarter where they were like building a lot of momentum and the Mavericks tried to fight back a little bit. And the Thunder, like that was the moment when he hit that shot. I was like, this game's over. Like, they're not going to come back and win this one. That was like the big momentum, completely like door shutting shot. And I said this earlier, but it's really a microcosm of what this Thunder team is, where it's Alex Caruso mucking things up, diving for a loose ball, kicking it out to Isaiah Joe, a guy who was cut by the 76ers, brought into the Thunder, and has now become one of the team's most vital players. The Thunder
Philly.
Shout out Philly. Shout out my brother who's a Sixers fan. I'm going to have to make sure to let him know of that because I'm sure he was asleep for the end of that game there. But yeah, man, it's such a fun team to watch. This is what you do. And like the Thunder have built, this is the best team in franchise history, by the way. I'll let people know that right now. This is the best team in franchise history. And I think they'll be the first team to win a championship in Thunder franchise history. It's just such a complete team. And I continue to think about what the record would look like if we didn't have Chet and Ihart both missing parts of the season. Because the Thunder right now only have 2 losses on the year where they had a big playing in the game. One of those was when Chet went down against the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Like the Thunder only have 1 loss this year where they had one of the bigs for the full game. And that was the Houston Rockets game where Fred VanVleet had some of the craziest magnet ball I've seen in my entire life. So outside of that game, if the Thunder have had 1 big on the court for all the night, they have 1. If both of them were out there, this Thunder team could legitimately be like, it's 19-5. I would not be surprised if this Thunder team was like 22-2 right now if they had everybody healthy. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 23-1. So yeah, man, if you were like, I mean, people are Thunder fans here. I was gonna say if you're a Thunder fan, but we're literally a Thunder podcast. Just appreciate what you're witnessing right now because you're witnessing what I think eventually will go down as one of the best teams of the modern era.
Yeah, Nah, I mean, you're preach to the choir, man. I will say I'd be remiss in saying that we did lose to the Nuggets by 2 in Denver with Chet still healthy. But yeah, I mean that was by 2. It was the second time we played them in like 2 weeks, so yeah, it's not a big deal. I mean, dude, I was saying like on the podcast, like half tongue in cheek, but half believing it. Like if this team was fully healthy and they stayed fully healthy, I think they could have pushed the Warriors for the record, like personally. But I mean, that's just me and my optimism.
Team, man. We might have been talking about it. It's just so crazy how good they've been. I wonder if they updated the defensive stats yet on NBA.com, because I wanted to see what the defensive rating is at after that. Actually, what's the site again? Adjusted efficiency. I wanted to see where the Thunder are at on that all-time adjusted efficiency leaderboard after tonight. It doesn't look like it's updated yet.
Daggone it.
Because unless they have the exact same number, because they're at 91.6 defensive rating plus, which is 0.2 behind that Spurs team.
Still crazy.
Yeah, still absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, net ratings of 12, by the way, at this point.
Sheesh. That is crazy. I will say in the first 3 quarters, I got to find it here. Shout out to my guy, Jace Hoops. If I could find his friggin' tweet where he talked about it. Well, never mind. It was talking about the first 3 quarters, what our defensive rating was. I'm pretty sure it was like 71.6 or something like that, which is just absurd.
Sounds about right. Like legitimately, people think we're being hyperbolic or glazing or whatever when we talk about this being one of the best defenses ever. It truly is one of the best defenses in NBA history. I just saw someone ask if I'm sitting down. Yes, I'm in a chair. Thank you, Matt, for asking.
I think he was talking about the if we had to give up a pick for Caruso.
Yeah, I still don't know about that. I'm still not sure. Would y'all trade for Herb Jones just to make sure the other West contenders don't get him as he's available at the deadline? DC, I don't think Herb Jones is going to be available. I've seen a lot of people put together trade packages today. I know the Pelicans suck right now, but Herb is young, and they just re-signed him to a new contract recently. I don't see any world where they trade Herb Jones. I think they're way more likely to trade Ingram. I could see a world where they trade CJ McCollum. I feel like most people will probably be available in that roster, but I think Herb and I think Trey Murphy are probably pretty untouchable with that team. I think they want to keep them because they are theoretically great fits alongside Zion if they continue to go that path. I don't think they trade DeJounte either. But, yeah, I don't think Herb's going to be available. As much as I would love Herb on this team. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I don't think we've podcasted since then, but whenever we played the Pelicans, Herb has kind of been like Shai's nemesis. Shai put the work on Herb.
The first quarter was a layup line for Shai. It was crazy. It looked like when they have sometimes like they'll have like an NBA player like score against little kids and they'll just like have them play like one-on-one kind of thing. That's what it looked like sometimes. Shai was literally just walking to the rim and nobody was even trying to stop him. Yeah.
Well, we are actually being joined by somebody that was boots on the ground tonight in OKC. Give it up for the podcast producer extraordinaire, the tyrannical one, the cockroach connoisseur, Matt Tierney. What up, Tierney?
Hello. Can you guys hear me? I didn't test my audio before I got
You sound great.
Sound
Fantastic.
beautiful.
I can't lie. Voice doesn't sound hoarse enough for having been in that building, man. Disappointed.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Front row.
I was screaming a lot. I don't know how much it got picked up on the TV tonight, but that was legitimately the loudest it has been since maybe the Westbrook Durant era. I didn't really go to a lot of games back then because I was like in middle school, I think, maybe a little bit of high school, but I didn't go to a lot of games. So I don't know for sure. That was one of the best games I have in Paycom Center. That if this was the Warriors or the Rockets in the NBA Cup, I don't know if it gets that intense. I think it's the fact that it was such an emotional game from the previous NBA playoffs and kind of getting that off of our back a little bit. We just every time Luka got the ball, we were booing him to death. I was
surprised that like from the get-go he was getting boos like that. I was surprised.
He was getting booed. I was booing too. I was also booing. I was contributing because I had to. It was crowd mentality. But yeah, it was. We were so like emotionally charged for this game. We as a city came in and delivered. And yeah, I was kind of listening to a little bit of what you guys were talking about on the way in from the drive. But yeah, there were just so many good things. The crowd was awesome. The energy was awesome the entire time. So yeah, just what a win. We're getting losers. We're going cupping. We're going cupping to Vegas.
We're going
cupping, baby.
Was the loudest pop of the night when Isaiah Joe hit that buzzer beating 3 in the third quarter?
No, there was a few that, I mean, it was loud, but there were two in particular. The Caruso to Kaysen alley-oop, I think, was the loudest because it was also the most surprising. Like, did not expect that. But the one that was the loudest, which was also, I don't know if they showed this part on the broadcast, but the Hartenstein offensive rebound and the dunk was the loudest because it was the one where he really like got the crowd into it. And what was the best part of the whole moment was they replayed it on the Jumbotron, but then they showed Chet's reaction, and Chet just like, he did that thing where what he normally does when he dunks and he like just screams in the sky. He just did that on the bench completely unsolicited.
That's
and
awesome.
That was just like, it was such a cool moment. And I think that was like,
for real.
He was just, he was exactly all of us. So that was really cool. They also, quick aside, they also showed Chet like just randomly, I think it was like the beginning of the second quarter, and everyone was sort of like applauding him. And the game, they had just tipped the ball back in, so he was not paying attention at all. And they had it on the Jumbotron for like a solid 60 seconds. He was just lost, and then he finally realized that he was on it. He was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" It was just kind of a funny moment to see him like not give he didn't care. He was totally in the zone.
Good to see him out there at the arena.
Yeah,
like that.
I think that might have been the first. Sign. That might have been his first game back on the bench.
I think he was there a couple of weeks ago, but he wasn't like as involved. He was still like very much in the crutch stage, so he was like sitting the whole time. But like, yeah, he was up and active. He was flexing, he was screaming, he was doing all kinds of stuff. It was great, and he was also very active on Twitter throughout the game too. So
he's just like me for real.
He really is just like me. For real.
Mark also after the game mentioned that he's been clearing some hurdles recently, so it's crazy that he's out there jumping over hurdles on the track with a recently broken hip, but proud of him.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I'm impressed.
I ran hurdles in high school, so he's just like me for real. That's crazy.
Just like so much of us. Wow.
Chet's so relatable. It's crazy. Yeah, no, fellas. I mean, obviously, just absolutely phenomenal game. I guess the only other thing to talk about is what's wrong with Jaylen Williams when he plays the Mavericks, man? Like, what happens?
I think they're just a tough defensive matchup. They've got a lot of length. I mean, they're one of the best defenses in the league. I think they do a good job of shutting off his lanes and having two athletic bigs like Gafford and Lively around the rim. I think they make life really difficult for him. I will say last game he played pretty well against them. He had an efficient scoring night. Let's see if I can find the stats exactly, but yeah, I mean, they're just really good defensively, and I think it provides a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Let's see, where's the game? Last game he had 27, 5 and 5 on 65% shooting when we played the Mavs earlier this season. So yeah, and I felt like this game, even though the efficiency was a little bit down, like I still felt like he was really good in other areas. Like the defense was sick. Down there fighting on the offensive rebounds, even if he wasn't always getting it, just boxing guys out and creating space for other people to come in and grab the board. It's all about with him. He's one of those players that finds a lot of ways to impact the game without scoring. He might not have 25 points every given night, but he's going to give you some of the best defense in the league. He's going to, keep the team afloat in minutes where Shai's on the bench. He and iHeart are building that connection. Shout out to Dub.
Yeah,
it didn't feel like it for sure. Right. I was just gonna to piggyback what Cohen was saying. Like it didn't feel as bad. Like he was, if you look at the box score, I don't think you would say he had a very efficient night, but it didn't really feel that way in the moment. I think because of all the other things he was doing. I also think very biased, but still worth mentioning. He was getting hit a lot. Like he was getting, I think he was getting a lot of physical contact that wasn't getting called. That probably could have been in a coin flip situation. And I do want to mention Mark was, I think we had mentioned it on a previous podcast, but I think it was after the Warriors game we had talked about how, Steve Kerr is very kind of vocal and aggressive, sort of very vocal with the refs and aggressive and like wanting calls, and then they'll kind of get those calls. I thought Mark did that pretty early today, which I just kind of noticed it because I saw him on the sideline. And one of those was the Dub. One of the plays where Dub went up and did not get a call where I think he should have. He got hit on the arm. And Dub was also getting pretty visibly upset. There was a very, very audible "refs, you suck" during the game, which you probably heard on the broadcast. And Dub also like very subtly, just like when that chant was going on, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, he definitely didn't get like some of those calls too, which isn't to be an excuse for his offensive performance, but I still don't think it was something that was worrisome, because also, yeah, they're going to be a problem for him. But it was fine. He made up for it in other ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got one of the worst whistles out of any star player in the league. I think he's just got to continue to build that reputation. It takes some time in the NBA to really start to get the respect from the refs. But like,
did with Shai too early on.
Yeah, it was. I remember towards the beginning of like the Shai era, it's like, man, can he get a call? And then eventually he started getting those calls, and then people started running with it. So again, want to say 39 points on 4 free throws tonight. But yeah, it's just gonna take some time for Dub to kind of build that reputation with referees as one of those elite scorers, a guy who does take a lot of contact. And I'm hoping it catches up at some point. I mean, we've been talking about how the Thunder have been getting kind of hosed on free throws all season. But yeah, he's definitely been one of the biggest culprits of not getting the respect he deserves from refs on a lot of those drives.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need him in future matchups with the Mavs, because like as awesome as Lou and Kaysen and the whole Thunder team's defense was on guys like Luka and Kyrie, we're not going to hold them to that every game. There's going to be games where Luka's scoring 30 points, and we're going to need a 25 or 26, 27 from Dub as well, because there might be games where, Dort, Kaysen, Hartenstein, like I don't think people realize this. We had 5 players in double digits, 2 guys get 9 points right behind it. So like the scoring was like spread throughout, and that's just not the case every night. So in those situations, like we got to have somebody step up, and like the obvious answer is for Dub. We did enough tonight where it didn't matter, but hopefully that is something that we see kind of mature like through the season, through the cup. We're about to play the winner of the Warriors Rockets game, which that's going to be a really tough game as well.
2 good defenses. It'll be a good test. I'm excited.
Yeah, and then hopefully the next time we match up with the Mavs, we see Doug come out on top in that matchup. So yeah, it'll be it's gonna be fun, man. The cup is gonna be awesome. I
do also think I will say Chet will help out with Dub a little bit too. Having another floor spacing big out there, I think, will be helpful. And I do think as he and Ihart continue to build chemistry, which they're doing a pretty good job of building that so far this season, but as they build more chemistry, I think that'll become easier for him too, as they get him some better looks. Also, I think as like the team's 3-point shooting comes around more and more, that'll help as well. There were a few possessions this game where like Kaysen or Caruso got the ball at the 3-point line. The Mavs kind of looked them off a little bit, and they eventually started to really make them pay. But it did feel like there were a few possessions where they were just like, hey, if you're going to shoot that. And, it's a lot more dangerous to let those 2 guys do that than it was for Giddey in the playoffs last year. So I think as the Thunder's 3-point percentage continues to kind of regress the mean a little bit, that'll also open up the game for him a little bit more against a team like Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so we'll play again Saturday against the winner of the Rockets.
We gotta wait a minute.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
What sucks is I have a Friendsmas giving party that day, so
that's a crazy late Friendsgiving party.
Friendsmas giving, so it's like it's right in the middle of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So like
gotcha.
we do
that makes
Thanksgiving
more sense.
stuff and the Christmas stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll probably have the game on in the background, but I won't be able to live tweet or freak out or podcast afterwards. But yeah, it's that is when we will play. We'll play the Saturday, December 14th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, and then if we win, then we will move on to the championship Tuesday, December 17th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So
We're gonna win the cup, by the way.
yeah, absolutely.
We're all the way to the cup.
Listen, once you go cupping,
You don't stop cupping.
yeah, there you go.
That's what I said.
This was the hardest game the Thunder were gonna have in the cup.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
In my opinion,
This
they were
was
the
it.
best team. Yeah, like Anthony said in the chat, 4 days with no ball really is rough.
It's
yeah,
tough,
we gotta
man.
like we're riding the high of this, and now we don't get to follow up with it until Saturday. I mean, I'm glad the guys are gonna get some rest. It's been a packed schedule to start the season, but like, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you are able, guys, like get to Vegas, support this Thunder team. Like, I know you guys travel for OU football, OU basketball. Like, show that spirit, show that for your Thunder basketball team, because I mean we're in a lot better shape than some OU teams and stuff like that. So
Get to Vegas, get the merch, go cupping. Big 3.
yeah, I didn't actually even say that. So we keep saying we're going cupping. We actually have some merch about going cupping. It is on the Topic Thunder Twitter. It is on our Bonfire website. You can find that with Bonfire at Topic, and type in Topic Thunder Podcast. Tierney has put it in the chat. Shout out Tierney. But yeah, it says, "Get 'em losers, we're going cupping." It's Shai driving a car with Dub in the passenger seat, Chet in the back seat. And listen, this is a cool shirt because it's evergreen. It doesn't just have to be about this year. This could be about next year or the year after. Like, I know you might be saying Chet's injured this year. Guess what? He's not gonna be injured next year. Knock on wood. And
wood.
I'm tap dancing on wood right now. So yeah, that shirt could that shirt could be relevant next year as well. So like we said, once you go cupping, you don't stop cupping. So get your shirt. Let's go cupping with the Thunder. And also on the OKC Topic Thunder Twitter, we do have tickets still for our fan event, March 19th. Or no, not March 19th. We're going March 19th. March 21st against the Charlotte Hornets. It's going to be an absolute blast. It has all the details there. 3 ticket packages.
You can come watch the future NBA Cup champions play. You can see the NBA Cup banner in person in Paycom Center.
That is true. You can see the future NBA Cup champions, and you can see former Thunder legend Trey Mann as well. So
that's it.
Do they have a banner for the cup? And if not,
yes.
Can we schedule that? Okay, we could just schedule it for the day we were there.
And what's great about it is the Lakers won the first cup and they hung a banner. So if the Lakers are hanging a banner for the NBA Cup, it's okay for the rest of the league to hang a banner for the NBA Cup.
Absolutely.
Very legitimate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was a huge win for the cup. Like,
huge
Lakers
one.
insufferable, LeBron could be insufferable, but huge win for the NBA for the Lakers to win the first one and, celebrate it as they did. But yeah. Buy your tickets to that. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great time. Shoot a half-court shot. Win a signed basketball by the rest of the Oklahoma City Thunder team. Meet all of your favorite Top of Thunder personalities and people off of Thunder Twitter. It's going to be an absolute blast. With that being said, I think. I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to add? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. We talked about all we could about the game, and we got 4 days break. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. Just huge performance, big win, national TV against the team that people project is if any team's going to knock off OKC in the playoffs, it's the Mavericks. I think we see them again in the playoffs. When's the next time we just straight up play them? It's
I was trying to look that up earlier when we were talking about the Chet coming back, because I don't know if we have him.
We play them January 17th and January 23rd, so we won't see them again with Chet back.
Yeah. Okay.
Next 2 times we'll play them, we'll both be without Chet.
Nuts.
Yeah, the January schedule is kind of crazy.
We have a lull in December, but January is.
Yeah, so we start December with, we start January with Clippers, Knicks, Celtics, Cavs, Knicks, Wizards, Sixers, Cavs, Mavericks, Nets, Jazz, Mavs, Blazers, Warriors, Kings, Bucks, Suns. Yeah, man, it's tough going in that stretch, but a lot of those games are home games, which is cool. So it'll be okay.
Thunder.
Right.
we need a Thunder Digest raises a good point. If that busy January schedule is going to be hard to schedule a cup parade. With
yeah, it's going to be
all
tough.
that
We
stuff
might
going
just
on.
have to throw our own one.
Yeah, we'll figure
We'll
it
do
out.
it in March. How about that? That'll be a top at Thunder activity.
But hey, you know the one thing,
We'll make
the
our
most
own.
important thing about this whole win is Jay Will is one step closer to that 500K, baby.
He
It's
is,
his
man.
money, baby.
One step closer.
His money.
Shout out to Jay Will. Get my man his
Shout out
money.
Jay Boyle. Real quick, I do got one more question in the chat. DCFNF says, when do y'all think Chet will be back? He says, I'm guessing after All-Star break. That is also what I'm guessing. There's a lot of gloom and doomers out there that think that he might not even play the season. Jerry, I'm looking at you, talked to you today, and you said that. Yeah, I would say that he could be back sooner, but I think even if he was going to be back sooner, they would hold him until after the All-Star break.
Yeah. I think All-Star break is about when it comes back, like maybe early March at the latest, but Chet will be back. The Thunder don't have any problem ruling guys out for a season if they know they're not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
They literally did that before Chet's, what was supposed to be Chet's rookie season. Like theoretically, there was like, oh, maybe he could have a chance to come back. They didn't even test it. They're like, no, he's out for the season.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. He'll be back. I had one more thing I wanted to throw in because I just checked it on the stats because I wasn't totally sure. Thunder still have more steals than turnovers. They had 14 steals, 13 turnovers today. So that progression of what's their positive ratio is up. I wanted to show it on the YouTube real quick because I tweeted it out, which I still think is so crazy to see. The fact that the Thunder are not only a positive in this category of steals over turnovers, but literally everybody else is significantly negative. Also, shout out the Pistons and the Jazz, which is way down there. It's a crazy stat, and yeah, they're now plus 10 because they had a plus 1 today. So, just gonna keep track of that through this season, I think.
There you go. I love it.
I love it.
I love it. I love this. Love this Thunder team. I love you guys, and I love the listeners. So listeners, thank you all for.
And we love the NBA Cup, baby.
We do.
We always have.
We've always loved the Cup.
Listeners, thank you all for tapping in. If you're in the chat, go ahead and leave a comment who you think is going to win the Cup and why it's the Thunder. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when we go live. Like this video, that would be great. Makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at OKC Top at Thunder and whatever you have to type in for Blue Sky. And we will be back on Friday with some kind of content, some kind of podcast for you guys.
Figure it out.
Until then, hope everybody has a great night. God bless. Hoop when you can. And as always,